another new OC in the AFC North. The Steelers have decided to go ahead and try their hand with the hated, at least if you play fantasy football, Arthur Smith from the Atlanta Falcons. So, when this one popped up, and I get it, there's a lot of people saying, well, look at what he did as an OC in Tennessee versus head coach. Yeah, the splits are pretty impressive in not such a good way for him because, so I was just looking at overall finishes. When he was the OC in Tennessee, the Titans offense in his first year finished 12th overall in yards, 10th overall in points. His second year in 2020, that jumped, man. In Tennessee, they were second overall in the NFL in yards and fourth overall in points. So the offense was very, very good in Tennessee. But then he goes to Atlanta to be the head coach, this offensive-minded guy, and they finished 29th and 26th. And then in 22, they finished 24th in yards and 15th in points. And then this past season, 17th in yards and 26th in points. So they're not scoring a ton of points. He got knocked for not being able to utilize some serious top 10 NFL draft talent. And I don't know, man. Do you think this is going to work out for the Steelers in Pittsburgh?
So this, I think this is an interesting one, right? So all the last couple of years, all I've heard is, man, he doesn't know how to utilize Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, Drake London. You have Atlanta fans saying, well, what do you want him to do? You got Ritter, whoever the quarterback is, it's not a top-notch quarterback. I think this is an interesting hire, right? I think that this could be favorable. You see a guy, when you look at Tennessee, what he was doing in 2019 and 2020, I believe, you look at Derrick Henry, had 2 career years with him. And I know they ran the ball a ton with Derrick Henry, but in Pittsburgh, they have 2 very, very serviceable backs. I mean, Najee's pretty nice. And then I'm a very big fan of Jaylen Warren. I think that he is sneaky good and kind of not even really utilized as much as he could be. So if you see those kind of touches, maybe even split between those guys, I could see it working. Another interesting thing that I think could be favorable for Pittsburgh is you look at a guy, AJ Brown. He had 2 pretty good years as he was ascending, both 1,000 yards, kind of put himself on the map. And now he's elevated himself into a new league, a different, tier of players as far as wide receivers in Philly. He went from a guy that put up back-to-back 1,000 yards to, you pretty much book him for 1,500 and like 11 touchdowns every year. Like that's top-notch, top 5, top 10 wide receiver type numbers. So I think I saw some stuff about, there's worries, would Pickens be upset with this? I personally think that if he's able to just manage this offense, and they have some question marks, they've got to figure out quarterback. They absolutely have to figure out quarterback. If they roll it into next year with those 3 guys, obviously I think
the thing is, man,
it's not it.
No, it's
not it. Mason Rudolph's probably the best guy in that group.
Oh, and he sucks. Point. And I don't even horrible. Know. So the thing is, the Steelers, Kenny Pickett, they were a playoff team, right? They don't have any kind of high draft capital to go get one of these top. Now, this is a much better quarterback draft than years past, so far anyway. At least that's what the guys are saying. But
the vibes are,
yeah, exactly. And could they find somebody later in the first round, maybe even in the second round? Of course. I mean, Jalen Hurts, these guys, guys are found later in the draft. But this Arthur Smith thing might, to your point, be more for the run game. Because the Steelers may very well be looking at the situation saying, we're kind of stuck with Kenny. He's not good. He's got 2 years now, and he's only got 13 total touchdowns. He's never had double-digit touchdowns in a season. And what are we going to do? You know what I mean? And we've got Najee Harris, first-round pick. Jaylen Warren is showing that he's pretty awesome.
He's good. Yeah.
Maybe I hope it doesn't work out for him. I really hope it blows up in their face and they are dog shit. But
I do think that there's interesting parts of this because he loves to run the ball.
Yeah.
But let's say they get aggressive. The owner's not happy. Tomlin's in for another year, so that they're going to be well coached, right? They're going to win a lot of close games.
Yes, and fans are still going to call for Tomlin's head. They're going to call for. I guarantee it's going to be like 4 weeks in. They're going to be saying, "Get Arthur Smith out of here." The first time they have a 6-point showing.
call me crazy, but what if they make an aggressive move and they go and they trade for Justin Fields or Russell Wilson or something along those lines? I think that the narrative could be much, much different heading into next season, because you saw Arthur Smith elevate a guy in Tannehill that
That's true.
Miami tossed to the side, didn't want anything to do with. I know it wasn't just an immediate thing with Tannehill. He got to build himself up, and it kind of all clicked in those 2 years where, especially in 2020, they were a top number 1 seed in the AFC. I wanted to say they were 11-5 or something like that. They were a dominant team. If they can go and get a quarterback, I think that they're just as dangerous as they've ever been. I mean, I've always been a guy that said you can't, even when you look at them, you're like, oh man, this roster is not that good. Defense is okay, probably better than average, but offense is, they get a decent quarterback that can get the ball to Pickens, and then Deontay Johnson's still there. I don't see them this necessarily being like, just because they hired Arthur Smith, they're done. I just don't.
Nope. So do they get the Arthur Smith from Atlanta? Do they get the one from Tennessee?
Correct.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. But
right. You gotta, if you're a Browns fan, you gotta hope the Atlanta one.
Yes,
if you're
for sure.
Because if you get the Tennessee version and he's able to elevate this offense into, like, let's say top 10, and with that defense, they're going to be very, very formidable again.
Absolutely. I know you're talking about bringing in a quarterback. If they don't, they roll with Pickett. That makes me feel better, because I don't think that he can really take them too far. I mean, obviously, he can help get you to the playoffs. I wouldn't say he led them there this year by any stretch, but
he's not the guy.
No,
they've got to be. To me, I know he's just second year, but I would do everything I could to get out of that contract. Whether you trade him to a team that maybe wants to develop him, if they see something in him. That's why I just think there's a big quarterback market as far as veteran guys, young guys that are out there that could be available. And the idea of Justin Fields in a Steelers uniform makes me just absolutely super depressed.
It does,
and nervous.
Did you see the hype video the Chicago Bears put out on social media?
No, I did not.
The Chicago Bears
I don't know what
just
they're going to do.
Put out a hype, with about Justin Fields.
Really? So Marvin Harrison Jr. at 1.
Maybe. Or they're probably going to trade it for a haul for somebody who wants to come up and get Caleb.
Just be smart.
Yeah. Down to 2 or 3. And the thing is, if they decide to keep, and I know this is a little off topic here, but if they decide to keep Fields, they're going to be, I think, very good on offense this year. I think it's going to be a much better offense than what you've seen in the past. I think he's a good quarterback. I do. I think that he can be a good quarterback. I just feel like the coaching up there in Chicago has been pretty bad.
I agree. I think every year he's gotten a little bit better. Now, I understand, like, when you listen to, like, the sports media and stuff like that, and they're like, this is a chance for Chicago to reset the market again, like reset their window on a quarterback. They're doing basically set it back 3 years, and they're back on a rookie contract deal, because they're going to have to pay.
I understand the business side of it. The business side of it makes total sense.
Right. But to me, I'm like, that looked like a kid that I thought was going the right direction, and looked explosive as ever, especially like with the run threat. It is. He's extremely dynamic.
I've heard this presented in a nice way by another show I listened to, and they said, if you're Chicago, you got to look at it this way, and just use last year's draft. You take a quarterback at 1, you decide to go that route and move off Fields. You are taking a chance that you are landing the next CJ Stroud, potentially. That's awesome. Sure. Or you could be hitting the next Bryce Young. Yep.
Right.
So
right.
If you feel like Justin Fields is somewhere like a nice balance between those two right now, maybe you just roll with him, stock up on more draft capital, move down, get him another elite wide receiver, because DJ Moore, I think, is an elite wide receiver. He is a talented guy. You put those two out there with Justin Fields and get them a little bit more of a running game going, could be good. Could be good.
I mean, I think DJ Moore kind of answered the call on whether he was a number 1 receiver in this league last year. He went absolutely crazy, especially like the primetime games. There was that Thursday night game where he went absolutely stupid dumb on, like 200 yards, like 2 or 3 touchdowns. Like, imagine you throw a number 1 alongside him, and then you've got to match up with those guys, and they have. You just think of some of like Cole Kmet. Cole Kmet's so kind of just undervalued. He's really, really good. Like they're very, very close. I I feel like they're just, I don't want to say they're like a poverty franchise because for most of my life, they've been rough, but so have we. But I just feel like some of the decision making, like they've never really had a quarterback my entire life. Like I think of the Bears and I go, it's Jay Cutler. Like,
right.
Was it Rex Grossman? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Like I'd say Jay Cutler's probably the best one. So like if they can kind of get Fields and continue to get him progressing, man, I think they've got a lot of upside. I don't get the trade Caleb Williams, get Caleb Williams thing. I just don't get it.
Yeah, I'm with you. But so before this becomes a Chicago Bears podcast, we're just going to talk about one. No, it's all good, man. We both went down that route. But there's one more move that happened in the AFC North, and then we'll move off of this topic. The defensive coordinator, Mike Macdonald from the Ravens, is now gone. He is now the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. So I just wanted to mention that, just throw it out there so everybody was aware that the Ravens have lost their defensive coordinator. They were pretty darn good on defense this year.
Yeah. And I thought that they said they had an ex-linebacker, what was his name, or that's filling into the defensive coordinator spot. And I haven't really done too much, you know what I mean? I'm not diving down into depth charts of, coaching staffs and stuff like that at this point. But it's kind of it's significant. It's a significant deal. Now they're a great franchise. We hate to say that, but you know what I mean? Like I feel like it's just like I don't think it's going to be like a wheels fall off kind of deal for them. It's like next man up. So we'll see, but very interesting thing.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Dawgs Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Twitter at the Dawgs Podcast. Get your thoughts on the show at thedawgspodcast.com.